In this review, I'm going to be discussing a new offering from Spikes Tactical. It is part number SLA02BT, and that is their ST Enhanced Battle Trigger. And this is a new product recently introduced to the market, and this is the first one that I've managed to get my hands on. And the price right now on this enhanced battle trigger, it's right around the $150 range, and I don't know if that price is going to come down as the product gets out there and more distributors pick it up, or if it's going to stay in that price range. But right now at $150, it's roughly double what the standard nickel boron plated Spikes single stage battle trigger is running. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this out and we're going to discuss the components, and I'll give you an idea of what it comes with to, help you decide on whether or not $150 is something that you want to spend on this item. So I have a ton of information off of Spike's website about this trigger. I'm going to try and avoid reading a lot of it because it just gets too boring, and I'm not the greatest reader of pre-written information, so I'll try to stick to just discussing the technical aspects of this for the most part. This is standard Spikes Tactical packaging for most of their smaller parts. Plastic bag with their label on it and a barcode. A lot of their bags are a Ziploc type of bag. This one is not Ziplocked. It is sealed. And as you can see, I haven't opened this. So I'm going to open this, and I'll be looking at these components more or less for the first time right along with you. So I'm going to open this and take these out, and we'll see what we have inside the package. Alright, here's all the components that are included with the ST Enhanced Battle Trigger. So we're looking at obviously the hammer and the hammer spring, the disconnector, and you'll notice that this disconnector is a different design from what you're probably used to seeing, and the actual trigger assembly. And down here is the KNS anti-roll pin kit, which includes a pair of Allen keys, the actual pins themselves, set screws, and a small bullet guide to help with the installation of the KNS anti-roll pin kit. So before I get there's also 3 set screws, and these 3 set screws are for the trigger to adjust, to make certain adjustments on the trigger, and I'll discuss that in a minute. For a comparison, I just want to throw out no, it's not. I'll do a comparison here of this trigger versus the standard nickel boron Spikes Tactical trigger in a second. I'll have to move all these parts out of the way. So anyway, let me read a little bit about this, the technical specifications. So let's talk about the hammer. The hammer is cold hammer forged from 8620 tool steel, 5-axis CNC machined, heat treated, and features a extremely slick and durable matte nickel boron finish. Pockets were added on both sides to reduce the mass and overall weight. The J-spring was also eliminated to reduce drag and wear. The included captured KNS pins make it possible for us to eliminate the J-spring. So specifically, you can see I'll hold this up in relation to the standard Spikes Tactical nickel boron hammer, and you can see the channeling that they did on this to reduce mass. The overall shape is basically the same. Now there is a difference in the finish. Both finishes are nickel boron. The one on the right is a little bit shinier, and the one on the left is more of a matte finish. And of course you can see that the new hammer here has the red JP spring on it. So moving on, the trigger itself is also cold hammer forged from 8620 tool steel, 5-axis CNC machined, heat treated, and features an extremely slick and durable matte black nitride finish. Pockets were placed in certain areas to reduce the overall weight. Adjustability was added to reduce the pull travel and to reduce the reset travel and the disconnect travel. When these three features are properly adjusted and dialed in, you're left with a very nice match grade trigger. The adjustment screws can be left out for those who want the most durable and most reliable trigger group on the planet. It is only necessary to run the adjustment screws if you choose to dial it in any further. For extreme use or duty use, it is best to leave the supplied adjustment screws out or Loctite them in place after they are properly adjusted. The trigger does include the 3 adjustment screws as well as the correct Allen wrenches required to install and adjust. This allows you, the shooter, to decide what you want. Okay, so the trigger, as you can see here, it comes with the trigger spring and the disconnector spring already installed in it. You can see that mass has been reduced from this trigger. If you compare it to the standard Spikes nickel boron trigger, well, let's see if we can okay, here's a better view right here. You can see where the mass has been removed here and here and here. And you can see on the back part there's mass removed back there. You can also see that there's threaded spots here for the adjustment screws and also right there. And there's also a recess right there, which was done to reduce mass when you compare it to the standard nickel boron. And you can see there's also a hole right there. I believe that's, yeah, that's for the adjustment screw as well. Okay. So that's the trigger. It's interesting that this trigger does not have a nickel Teflon or a nickel boron finish. It is a nitride finish. So there's obviously some logic behind that. These are the set screws, which if they don't roll off my work area, they go in here. It did say that this trigger kit includes Allen wrenches for these set screws. That is not correct. There are no Allen wrenches for these screws. That's a pretty small Allen bolt, probably a 1/8 or a 1/16. These wrenches right here are for the KNS anti-roll pins, and they're more of a Torx. They're not going to work for this, so that's something to keep in mind, that although the literature I just read you says it comes with the wrenches, this particular one did not. So there's 3 of those. Also, I should note that on Spike's Tactical website, the picture for this kit shows a small tube of Loctite, and this did not come with any Loctite. So if you're going to use these adjustment screws, and of course as well as the screws here for the KNS anti-roll pin kit, I do recommend that you apply some blue Loctite on them so they don't loosen up or back out on you. So you would have to supply that yourself. Moving on with the disconnector. The disconnector is wire EDM cut from 4140 chromoly, heat treated, and features an extremely slick and durable nickel Teflon finish. The disconnector has been skeletonized to reduce weight and to increase the reaction speed of the disconnect for an extremely quick and positive reset. The included hammer spring is a JP 3.5 pound red hammer spring. The weight of the hammer was engineered and tested to be optimum with the JP 3.5T hammer spring. It offers extremely positive ignition even with harder primers while maintaining a crisp, ultra smooth 4.5 to 6.5 pound pull weight. The standard milspec hammer spring can be installed by the end user to achieve a higher pull weight if desired, or to increase the energy being applied to the primer. The other springs, the trigger spring and the disconnector, are milspec and made from 17/7 stainless steel. Okay, I read a little bit further into the description there, past the disconnector. You can see the skeletonized disconnector here, which is sporting a nickel Teflon finish instead of a nickel boron finish. This is similar to how the ALG ACT battle trigger is set up. It uses a combination of nickel boron and nickel Teflon. And if we were to compare this to the standard Spikes nickel boron disconnector, you can see that the I'll overlay these on top of each other. The overall shape is identical. It's just a different finish, as well as the internals on the new disconnector being skeletonized. So the KNS anti-roll pins that are included with this kit are the Gen 2 anti-rotation pins. According to Spikes, this kit is made to their specifications and supplied to them by KNS, of course. They took the traditional design and changed the look slightly to make them a lower profile, and they increased the strength of the sidebars as well as the strength of the trigger and hammer pins. The trigger and hammer pins are machined from a proprietary alloy. Of course, they don't say what that alloy is. Heat treated and feature an extremely slick and durable black nitride finish. So I believe the design of these sidebars coincide with the design of some of Spike's new lowers that have channels machined in them, so these fit flush in the lower. I believe that is an accurate statement based on some of the pictures I've seen of some of the new Spike's billet lowers. These appear to be designed to fit in those lowers for a lower profile. So don't hold me to that if I'm wrong, but I do believe that that is the case. And so what I see so far here by looking at this is a extremely well finished trigger kit here. The nickel boron and the nickel Teflon, actually to me the nickel Teflon, which I'm holding in my hand, the nickel Teflon finish, if you've never actually held this in your hand and felt it, it feels like it has oil on it. It's that slick. I first noticed this when I started using the ALG trigger assemblies that have the nickel Teflon finish. To me, it's a much slicker surface than the nickel boron. But in actuality, I don't know which one is superior. The hammer here is the nickel boron finish, and it does not feel as slick as the nickel Teflon. It is also a very well made hammer. The red JP spring, the red finish is kind of coming off in some areas on this. It's probably just sprayed on. No big deal there. And the trigger, nice black nitride finish on it. It's definitely skeletonized to a certain degree. I don't think any of the material that's been removed from this for weight savings would compromise the integrity from what I can see. But again, these are just my observations on taking it out of the package. Only time's going to tell. I will be installing this in one of my rifles, and I will be adjusting these screws, assuming I don't lose them. I will be installing these and adjusting these and optimizing the feel of the trigger with these screws, and I'll be applying Loctite on those as well. That's one of the things that interested me the most about this particular trigger kit, is the enhanced adjustability here. So I don't have any other information off of Spike's website, except that Spike's does say that there's Allen wrenches and blue Loctite included. Allen wrenches for the trigger screws and blue Loctite included, and those were not present in my package. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, my package was hermetically sealed, so it wasn't a case of a Ziploc bag with something being taken out. I don't know if they just decided not to include those items or what the story is, but do keep that in mind if you purchase one of these triggers. So this is going to conclude my unboxing and my brief discussion of the Spike's ST Enhanced Battle Trigger. Stay tuned for a follow-up video to this, where I'm actually going to install this into a lower receiver and get it adjusted.